Okay, so a couple of years ago, some guy did a talk about the idea that you might want to tell people about whatever you're doing before you actually release whatever product or service or game you're working on. And this kind of took off a bit. It was kind of a thing before, but once this guy told people in the industry that you could actually do it for games, it took off. So we've all started using these social platforms. Is that too soon? Too soon? See, I'm right up to the minute on this. So we're all using social now, and I think that's really great. I see lots of good examples of people using social media every day, lots of bad examples still, unfortunately, because it's still quite a difficult thing to master as a game creator, because we've got this priority where we're trying to build something, where we're trying to market something. We don't quite yet know what's going to be in the final package. And we blame that on the lack of publishers or people to do it for us, or simply just not enough time. There's lots of with different social platforms, you have different challenges. So, for example, a post on Twitter, that's got an average lifespan of about 2.5 hours, while you might see a post on your Facebook page maybe stay in people's feeds for about 2 to 3 days if they've not seen it. 2.5 hours is not a long time, and you don't get many opportunities at all to make an impression on that. Worst of all, with networks like Facebook now doing things like EdgeRank, you can't even guarantee that somebody who's said that they're a fan who like your Facebook page will even see your content. Roughly 16% of your total audience will end up seeing your Facebook posts, which is kind of scary when you tell that to your boss, who's been ploughing all this effort into doing a social media campaign, and only 16% might even see it, let alone interact with it. Plus, also, you've got to consider it's expensive to create content for social media. You've got to either employ someone to do it for you, or you've got to take time out of your day-to-day to talk to people, and talking to people sucks a lot of the time. And I can't say that Google Plus is going to solve any of this for you, but just a couple of weeks ago I saw a new startup announce that they existed. I've been in a similar position. And they were doing the whole shebang again, going, like us, tweet us, follow us in this, follow us in that. We're social. This platform was not part of their social experience. And there's a lot of numbers and there's a lot of stigma that game developers especially hold against this, because we don't see this as a useful platform anymore. We didn't really see it as a useful platform when it first launched, because it was really confusing and it was new. And it was like Pinterest, and it was like Twitter, but it was also like Facebook, and it just turned into this sort of monstrosity of user interaction. Yeah. So I want to kind of dispel some quick myths and things that you might have found a bit surprising about Google+. So you probably use at least one of these services, right? This is the user participation part.
Yes, all of them. Yes, Kraig.
So you'll use one of these with varying success, and the one thing in common is they're all part of Google. And Google is this sort of giant leviathan which no other sort of platform kind of matters. So even if you don't have specifically a Google Plus profile to your knowledge, you actually already do if you've ever used one of these services, because your YouTube account is now a Google Plus account. Your Android phone is going to start having Google Plus content shoved into it if you've not already got that being force-fed to you already. 60% of people who upgrade to a smartphone are getting an Android phone. So the audience on mobile Android is huge, and Google Plus is going to come with Android. And to be honest, the Google Plus app is a little bit better than the Facebook one. It's a gorgeous app. And then there's that thing as well, which I kind of use constantly. And we don't give this much thought when we're rolling out our big plans to unveil our new product or our new business, because we don't think that we can really control that. But Google's giving us a bit of help now with Google+. We can influence what sort of content we tell it. We can influence what sort of content about us that they display when people search us. So if you take what Facebook's able to offer us right now, Google Plus kind of have the Hulk when it comes to what people use to discover you. You can beg people to like your Facebook page and stuff, but ultimately people are going to Google you first. They're not going to remember a URL, or they're not going to use a QR code. I've not used a QR code all year. I never want to use one. They're ugly. So that's food for thought. If you take Google Plus seriously, which kind of ties all of their services together, or at least will in the next year, Google will start taking you seriously. Because if you don't take Google seriously, you're going to have that as your search result every time you search your startup or a quirky name like Dyslexic Camel or whatever you want to call your game studio these days. It's weird. So I want to quickly give you some action points, and my goal here is to at least encourage you to check it out again, because you might be surprised. A lot of people think that Twitter is like second place to Facebook and Facebook is number one. Actually, Google surpassed Twitter last year by like 100 million monthly active users. And this isn't really something that they brag about, because that number fluctuates a lot depending on what people are doing with Google services. But it's something you should at least take a look at tomorrow, not right now, because you're here. So the first thing I want you to do is to take stock, tidy up your accounts on social media, because I was searching for some colleagues on Google Plus. I wanted to add some people to my circles, and I don't want to share their identity, but you might, if you're clued up with the industry, get what I see. So many people have duplicate Google accounts, because especially with this YouTube Google account merge thing that happened a while ago. There's actually 6 different Lucky Frame accounts that you can find on Google and Google Plus. At the company I work for, we've got about 20 different fake and non-relevant accounts claiming to be us, which is kind of scary. And if you look at other people in the industry, you can see that they're just sitting on this, and the actual fan base, the user base, are taking control and reserving the social media presence for these companies. So it's going to be quite awkward when they suddenly do decide to adopt it and they find that their name's gone. It's kind of like the Coca-Cola problem. This next thing I want you to do, once you've tidied everything up, is consider Open Graph and schema.org. And this is something which isn't thought about so much with social, but when you actually see it in action, this is what part of the sort of schema.org spec, and it's basically an invisible meta language which you can embed in things like your web page posts and your blogs. And this is the sort of like how Google now builds up its knowledge base. It's not about keywords anymore so much. It's about semantics and actually identifying tangible things like companies, software, people. There's no actual formal spec for video games yet. I'm working on that. But there is a spec for mobile and computer software apps. So if you take a reputable service like the BBC, who are kind of like the experts in this country in like thin content and documenting all the work that goes into their products, BBC have marked up all of their new content and archive content with schema.org. And this is the sort of snippet that you get when you search for something like Doctor Who in Google. And they didn't have to do any sort of deals with Google or any search engine provider. You didn't have to pay any consultancy from, and this isn't advertising. This just comes up organically because Google crawls pages that have schema.org content, and it's able to pull in data from things like Wikipedia and IMDb, reputable high volume sources of information, and it creates something beautiful like this. And note the follow button that gives people the opportunity to connect with your brand or whatever. That's right in the search page. You don't even need to go into the service in order to start connecting with a brand. So I talked about Wikipedia and IMDb there. If you've got one, you should totally sort that out, because I've been right now dealing with a lot of Wikipedia vandalism on our page. And actually Google considers it a really high value reputable source of information. So if you've got this right, then you'll find yourself getting promoted to these rich snippet results and being discovered a lot quicker, rather than just going on things like social media alone. So a good example of this is Local Boy Denki, which some guy over there actually spent quite a long time editing by looking at the edit history and stuff quite a while back. And this is a great example of how you do a proper non-bias, I say non-bias, sort of write-up of your company or your product, and it's quite extensive. And that's what Google likes, that's what Wikipedia love. There's a whole community project that helps you understand how to edit your content and write about yourself in a way that's sort of furthering the standard of video game content on Wikipedia. So you should definitely check that out if you can. So that's good. We're getting close to the end, promise. There's a thing called authorship, which you've probably seen but not known about specifically. If you write a blog or you have your own portfolio site, you should totally link that site up with Google authorship. And that's basically creating a two-way link between whatever website or content platform that you're using, and linking that to your Google Plus account. So basically, if I write about content and people search for it, they're going to see my face when it comes to creating an isometric camera for Unity. And that creates quite a lot of site traffic for me because nothing else I write about is relevant apart from that blog post. So it's pretty powerful because you get people, if you remember back in like 2007, about.com and sites like that, whenever you'd search something, you'd either get like Stack Overflow forum and stuff. Google's kind of moving against that now. And it's basically grading people on content and relevance. And this is the way forward. So you get a lot of people paying for higher search results. And then suddenly now authorship comes along, mucks up your search results, and they don't know what to do about it. The truth is, write good content, share it frequently, and you'll start seeing your face next to blog posts and keywords. And it's very simple to do. If you're a WordPress user, you just link your WordPress account to Google+, and that it will take care of it for you. If you're more manual like me, then you just need to add a sort of link or a meta link to your profile on whatever page you've got on your site. You can do it for brands, you can do it for people. You can actually now use it for both at the same time. So let's say an employee writes a blog post for your larger brand. Google likes that better than just an anonymous brand, so bear that in mind. So the only extra step that you need to do is list that you're a contributor to that site before you're done. And I can see Brian's already actually linked scottishgames.net to Google+, so good job. Did I tell you about that?
No. It comes naturally.
I think I did at the Glasgow Film Festival, Brian.
I was probably drunk.
I think I was too. So, some hazard notes. We're like just a few slides to go. I really want you to take Google Plus seriously, and one of the things that I see a lot with brands just venturing out into it is that they completely alienate the user base, basically just by recycling content from Facebook or Twitter, not actually considering the advantages of the platform. And you see companies doing this all the time. I'll let you digest that for a minute. This is a really bad example of marketing. This is what happens when you just get bored and recycle things. And the equivalent happens on Google Plus a lot. I see it happening on Twitter a lot when people link Twitter users to Facebook photos. That really doesn't make sense. And sometimes it's just downright insulting. So, because with Google Plus, you can actually do really cool things like GIFs, and you can even posts that you share from your site, like in Facebook, they actually look a lot nicer and richer, and even poetry stands out rather well as well. You can actually format text in like bold and underline, and that doesn't sound very relevant, but the key thing is there, the bold text in that girl's Facebook post, that's taken as a title tag when it's turned into bold. So because it's Google, they actually crawl that like it's a website. So if you Google new poetry and stuff, that's going to appear in normal Google results, thus allowing people who don't even use Google Plus to find your Google Plus content. You can't say the same with a tweet or a Facebook post anymore. You used to be able to do that with social search, but then they scrapped that. And also, content takes up the full width of the screen if you're lucky. You don't get to choose how this happens, but that is like a game trailer for somebody's Unity game, and that's taking up my whole screen on my computer. And you just don't get that in like a news feed or a timeline. I'm not saying that's always great, but if I want somebody to view a trailer and I've got a really good cover pic like that, that's going to get me a lot more views and a lot more interest than like just begging someone to click a YouTube link. So the only thing I can say about circles is it's really good for targeting people. So with your Facebook pages and your community things, you can only target the whole audience, and actually Facebook will decide what content gets read. You can actually choose who to specifically engage with in Google+. So if I have a really important thing that I want my friends at Edge Magazine to write about, I can just share a really important post with the game journalists who are following my page. And the great thing about that is, because they're also following me on Google+, they get an annoying little red notification whenever they go into Google. And you just love to click that notification button. You've got to do it. And that's really powerful because it gets more people reading your content, providing you use it sparingly and tastefully. This is a really powerful tool that a lot of people don't either understand or know about, but it's a really core feature of Google+, right there from the beginning. And lastly, communities. This is basically like groups, except a lot more public, a lot more open. It's kind of got a bit of Pinterest mixed in there for a bit of fun. They're like mood boards for your favourite subjects. So lots of people are posting content. There's a lot of members of all these popular groups, a lot more than Scottish Games right now, but that might catch up. And this is just crazy. This is how you get discovered. This is free discoverability right here. You don't need to barter or pay for ads or anything like that. And the great thing is, the people in these communities, they're actually interested in what you have to say. It's not like Twitter. It's a bit different from Facebook. It's pretty awesome. And that's just a very brief overview. All I can say is try it, take a look at it. I can't say you'll all like it, but I think you'll get some decent results from that. And it's great to be back in Dundee again. I hope I've not put you all to sleep. Have a good night.